Hello and welcome to another episode of Aphantasia Experiments. I'm so excited. I have so much to talk about. I just did a bunch of work on my computer. I've been on the road a lot lately, so every once in a while I have to do some work on the computer. And I just spent a few hours doing a bunch of stuff, and then I felt like my body was buzzing, and I needed to move it. I needed to do something different, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I went outside. That wasn't working. And then I was like, I know what I need to do. I need to podcast. I need to let out all this like pent up knowledge that I've gained in the last couple weeks, and I need to share it with my audience. So welcome, and I hope some of the stuff that I talk about resonates today with you. I'm just going to look over my notes here. I always touch a little bit on aphantasia, but I do not feel like this is an aphantasia-y like a big on aphantasia episode. So if you're coming here for cures for aphantasia, don't think that's going to come in, but I do talk about aphantasia and Reiki in this episode. I'm going to get to that. So if that interests you at all, stay tuned. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the eclipse that just happened on April 8th, 2024. Were you a part of it? Were you in the area of the total solar eclipse, like the totality zone? I was, and let me tell you, it was something magical. I'm going to go through my day so I can paint you a picture of what was happening at my house. So that morning, I took my kids out for a walk. So I live in Ontario, and the area that we're in, I think actually all of Ontario, maybe not, I might be lying there. The schools were closed on, like, it was a PD day for kids. They switched the PD days, which is a professional development day. My husband, who's a teacher, had to work, but they made the kids stay home because the time of the eclipse was right after 3 o'clock, which is exactly when the kids are getting out of school. And they were worried that the kids would look at the sun and bada bing, bada boom, lose their vision, whatever. So I had the kids home, and I decided to make a whole day out of the eclipse, even though all the weather reports were saying it was going to be completely cloudy and you weren't going to be able to see anything. So I said, okay, we're going to spend the afternoon outside, and we're going to like track this thing and whatever, and we're going to write letters to the moon and the sun, and let go of things that we don't want anymore. Like, we're going to write down all the things that we hate, and we're going to write down all the things we're grateful for, and we're going to ask the universe, to help us with a goal or whatever. We're going to write this letter to the sun and the moon. And we're going to burn it. So the first thing that we did was, before we did any letters or anything, we went for a walk in the forest. I'm so lucky I live by a forest. And I'm walking through the forest, and there's something about, I go for walks with my kids all the time, but every time I walk through the forest, it's like they get re-energized in a way, my son who struggles with a lot of impulse control issues, I swear that forest will like snap him back into the zone that he should be in, and not like impulsively throwing stuff, The forest, he will still impulsively throw stuff, but I don't know where I'm going with this. Doesn't matter. The forest is beautiful. So we went in the forest and we started collecting sticks. We made a whole thing of it. We got a wagon. You're really not supposed to have fires in Burlington below a certain street, but we did. Anyways, don't tell. All my neighbors do it, and it's a good time. So we came home, and my daughters and I wrote letters again to the sun and the moon. And my youngest daughter, she's an SK. She doesn't know how to write. She can write her name, and she can write love. So she does all the time. She writes Fifi love on literally everything. She knows how to write two now, and some names. So she was drawing pictures of things she hated, and then writing love Fifi on it. And so we had all these pieces of paper that we were planning on burning during the eclipse. my daughter, my 8-year-old, writes a letter to the moon and the sun that legit had me bawling my eyes out. I was hysterical. And it wasn't even, I don't, like if I read it today, would I be that hysterical, or was it the energy from the eclipse that was making me so emotional? The emotions that were bubbling to the surface were absolutely cuckoo bananas. It felt so weird. So my daughter, like 10 minutes before this happened, my other daughter was having like an emotional moment. She was like really upset in her room. She was crying. She said, nobody cares about me. I said, I care about you. And we had this whole conversation. I'm like, sometimes the moon can really affect us. Think of how the moon affects the tides, the water. We're made up of water, and this moon, like the light and the energy and all that stuff, that affects us too. And sometimes it can make us extra emotional. And she was like, oh, that makes sense. She's like, we all care about you, but maybe like you felt like that a little bit, but because today is eclipse day, those feelings feel really big. And she was like, yeah, they do feel really big. And I was like, yeah. So anyways, 5 minutes later, my other daughter is writing this letter and I'm reading it, and it's thanking the sun and the moon for the light and the dark that it gives us, and that the light wouldn't be the same without the dark, and the dark wouldn't be the same without the light. And it wasn't even, she didn't ask for anything. She just wanted to show her appreciation for the light and the dark. And this has been such a theme in my life for the last few years, is like, there's so much darkness in our world, and we hide away from it, and we hate us on a rainy day, but the rain is what brings the growth of the flowers, and we need to understand the purpose of the dark and understand that the dark makes the light, that much nicer. Anyway, so the whole letter just like sparked, it like brought up all these like feelings and emotions of all these dark nights of the soul, I would call them, like when I'm up at night in the middle of the night thinking about the difference between dark and light, and how we can't ignore the dark. And like I have these thoughts in my head about dark and light, and my daughter's writing this letter thanking them both. It just got me so emotional. And then my 6-year-old comes up to me, who's calm now after her meltdown before. She was like, Mommy, it's okay. Sometimes the eclipse can, it can really bring up a lot of big emotions. It's okay that you're crying. And I was like, thanks. But oh my gosh, it was, it was just so much. But then we went outside, and I was all excited because I got a fire started. My husband is like, he always is the fire guy, and he tends to complain when he does it. He's like, no, nobody else makes a fire. I'm always like, I know how to make a fire. I always can make a fire. I've always been able to make a fire. But he likes to make the fire and then likes to complain about it. I'm not sure. But anyways, I was so proud of myself because I was like, I know he's getting home like right around eclipse time. I want a good fire going before he gets home, just so I can be like, I did it, and it happened. So I was proud about that. So we have this fire going, and my kids had all drawn. Do you ever say a word and you're like, that sounds weird as hell? Is it drawn? We had all drawn. I worked in publishing. I'm not well read. I am well read. Wow, I am not. Double negative. I am well read. I'm struggling with the word drawn right now. We drew. We had all drawn. It doesn't matter. We drew a bunch of pictures of things we hated. We drew a bunch of pictures of things we loved, and we threw it in the fire. The letters we had, we waited till the total eclipse to throw it in. So we're out there, and the clouds are, layered upon layered upon layered. It is gray as a 50 Shades novel, okay? It is gray. I just came up with that. That was good, right? Just kidding. But I did just come up with that. I was proud of that. I was like, something gray, something gray. But it was super gray. And you could not see the sun, so we put our solar eclipse glasses on, look up into the sky. There's no sun. It's just black. You're looking through black glasses, you see nothing. So I put my regular sunglasses on, and I keep like kind of, casually looking up there every once in a while to see if any sun was poking through. And then it started to do it. It's like it started to come out. And so I put my glasses on, and it's kind of cool. Like, I mean, it's definitely cool seeing you just see like the moon basically in your glasses, like a glowing sun moon kind of thing. It's cool. And we're sitting there, do that. We take our glasses on and off. But the clouds are like, the clouds are coming and going, and it's mostly cloudy, but the sun comes out, every so often. And then my husband calls me. It's like 15 minutes away from total eclipse time. And he's like, the roads are chaotic, like nobody's moving, like we're not going anywhere. He's like, doesn't matter. It's not like we're going to see anything. It's so dark. And I'm like, I don't know. I hope you can make it. Like, he's like, I can see the sun from my window here, so I'll be able to see whatever, but, it's okay. Like, it looks like it's too cloudy anyways. I was like, well, we're just going to keep on trucking over here. Hopefully it happens. He came home like within 4 or 5 minutes of the eclipse. Like, how the traffic opened up, I have no idea. But just like the traffic opened up, so did the clouds. And I read this after, but I read after that often during a total solar eclipse, clouds will actually like dissipate right before, because of like the energy, I guess, like the sun, and right, it gets brighter and then lighter, darker. I don't really know. But, so what the fuck was I saying? The clouds completely, I mean, not completely. It was like, you can check it on my TikTok. I post it. And it sucks because my TikTok, the actual darkness of the video, it like adjusted. It was so much darker in real life. It looks like almost just like a dark blue, but it was so dark and so just magical. So the clouds open up. I mean, it's not perfect. It's not like completely clear skies, but it was so much so that it felt completely magical that it did that, because it was so layered, the clouds. Like, it was thick gray clouds. And then all of a sudden we're seeing blue sky. Even like the whole other time when we were seeing the clouds, it was still on a white sky. When you can see the sun, but it's like white. The sky is all of a sudden blue, and there's no white, and we can see. It was just so crazy. So the eclipse happened. Oh, let's go back 5-10 minutes here, because I have a fire going, and it's in the middle of my yard, and my dog is on the other side of my yard, and I'm really bad at spatial concept too. So it's like maybe a swimming pool away. We have a pretty big swimming pool, like a decent sized swimming pool away from this fire. And I'm seeing my dog's breath, and it's a nice day outside. It's not cold at all. I'm like, why am I seeing my dog's breath? And then like we started, my kids and I were like, what the fuck? Why can we see each other's breath? I'm like, is it because of the fire? Forgive me, I'm not overly sciencey, so maybe it's because of the fire, but it felt like she was so far away from the fire, and it wasn't cold enough to see your breath. Like, it wasn't cold out. It was a nice day out. Like, why? Is it because she was breathing in the... I was like, is this an eclipse thing? I tried to Google it, and normally, when I have a thought in my head like that, it's like fully explained by science. I think it was just like, I feel like it had something to do with the fire and something to do with the eclipse. I don't know. But we were all seeing her breath everywhere, pretty far away from this fire. So I thought that was kind of neat. It almost looked like, and this might make me sound a bit cuckoo, but when has that ever stopped me before? It almost looked like our breath was sparkling. Okay? And it felt like our grass was kind of sparkling in a special way too. It was probably because of the way the light was reflecting. It was really cool. It really felt like from 5 minutes before the eclipse to like 5 minutes after the total eclipse, I felt like I was in a movie that the special effects were like enhanced in a way to make it feel like extra fantasy like. My son, when we were in the total eclipse, maybe we were coming like slightly out of it or right before, I forget. But he was like, this lighting, this feels really weird. Does this feel weird? Does this feel weird to anyone? I'm like, it's weird. It's weird, but cool. He's like, so cool. Like we felt like we were in this like bizarro world with, I don't know, like two mixed energies. I don't know. It was the coolest. And it was really cool to also hear. So we just like were in my backyard, and it's private backyard, but we have a court behind our house, and then we have like neighbors all around us, right? Like we live in a cul-de-sac. If one of our neighbors' kids is screaming in the backyard, we will hear that. And during like the total eclipse, we're just hearing like the, oh, whoa, cool. And it's just like this collective experience of like everyone being in awe at the same moment, and everyone like just being so appreciative of these like clouds opening up, because you could hear it too in the cloud. It was like, I don't know, a scene from The Simpsons, like the clouds just like opened up so the letters could appear, you know? And everyone was just like, whoa, like it's happening. Like, and I've seen so many clips of people who were so emotional. And I think that it's going to open a lot of people up to I don't know, like finding that spiritual side of themselves, like getting to understand themselves a bit more. And I don't, why is that? I feel like you were looking into your soul when you were looking at the eclipse. There was something about like you're facing yourself, you know, that the universe, it's not all like random, because the sun is 400 times larger than the moon, and the moon is 400 times further or like closer to the earth than the sun. That doesn't seem random. It seems like everything is connected, and, you know, if you're not kind of doing what you're supposed to do here and living your purpose and feeling aligned, then, you know, the eclipse can bring out a lot of really shitty feelings, because I don't know, for me, it felt like looking into my soul. And, you know, for my husband and I, we've had some difficult conversations since, just like normal relationship conversations, but I feel like those things kind of bubble to the surface. And I think that other people, I mean, I know that other people I know that are in relationships have had similar experiences. Things bubble up. You look at yourself and you see I feel like you're seeing a different perspective. Maybe you're seeing the light and the dark at the same time. I don't know what it is, but there was something about that, all of these people together in this like collective state of awe. It was life altering, honestly. And not for why I thought it was going to be. Like I thought it was going to be, well, for me, I felt like an energy shift for sure. But like I thought, I don't know. I'm not sure what I thought was going to happen, but I think it was like, I don't know, it was way more profound than I kind of expected it to be. And I see the beauty in everything. Like I go for a walk and I like stare at a dandelion like a kid. I have that sense of childlike wonder, or at least I try to. And when I don't, I get miserable. Like I love going for a walk through the forest and trying to find which tree has the largest trunk, you know, like little things like that bring me joy. But this eclipse was like beauty beyond beauty beyond beauty. And I think that's probably what heaven is like, you know? The sky was like glowing and sparkling. I don't know. It was so cool. Anyway, so if you have a cool eclipse story you want to share with me, please do. I would love to hear it. Email me at rofocreative@gmail.com. I'd love to share other people's experiences on the podcast as well. So feel free to share and just let me know if you're okay with me sharing. whatever you have to share with me. So what else did I have to talk about today? That was a big, long spiel about the eclipse, 20 minutes. Also, I'm walking around in a circle in my kitchen, and my heart rate is actually like legit up right now from pacing. There's this guy at my daughter's gym who clearly has ADHD. I mean, like, which is totally awesome, and I love people with ADHD. I have it too, and I think it's magical. But every time the phone rings, he gets on and he's just pacing, like pacing, and it's the exact same thing that I do. Like if I get a phone call, I'm like, I have to stand up. I don't know why, and I have to start pacing. But it's funny to watch someone else do it. Why am I telling you this? I don't know. If you pace and walk, congratulations. Welcome to the club. You are a genius. Okay, so I wanted to talk more about my like Reiki experiences. I wanted to talk about Judith Orloff. So I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, the Jen Weigel Show. I read all of her books, I don't know, during COVID probably. And like I reached out to her and she responded. She's very nice. She has this podcast and she talks to different like spiritual people, psychics, mediums, all that stuff. She is an excellent interviewer. Her podcast is just, it's really entertaining and really well done. She's excellent. So where am I going with this? Jen Weigel. I was listening to one of her latest episodes. There we go. And she had on Judith Orloff, and the name rang a bell. And I was like, I definitely have read one of her books. And I looked at my library history, and I had read one. She is like the guru. I use the word guru, like the person. She knows a ton about people, like empathy and intuitive healing, and but she's also like a psychiatrist, psychologist. She's a doctor of some sort who uses this to help her patients, instead of just using like the clinical, like, how are you feeling? Where's the pain? Here's some drugs. Like she's holistically and like intuitively getting to the bottom of like pain, suffering, trauma, all that stuff. So, I think I talked about this before. I went for my Reiki 2. I went for my attunement. And ever since then, I have been getting so much more intuitive information. My downloads are coming way stronger. I'm feeling almost overwhelmed with it. I've been having to listen to a lot of frequency music to hone in, and I've really gotten to understand my like heart energy, and my goal is to like stay in that energy. And so I've been working a lot with my heart since doing the Reiki 2, and I've been doing Reiki on some of my friends. And then I've been also like tapping into this, maybe this sounds like totally evil, but tapping into other people's energies. And I'm not just doing it willy-nilly. Like my friend, she said, can you tap into my son's energy like when he's sleeping one day? And I'll do that. And I do this whole thing where I like connect to the other person's soul and ask for permission and all this stuff. But I get so much information. It is just so wild. All the stuff that's coming in. But as I'm doing this, sorry, it's going in because I'm talking about Reiki and Judith Orloff, and it's going to come together. Just wait, okay? So I've listened to Jen Weigel's podcast. I've done the Reiki 2. I've been doing Reiki on friends and family and random people, and I come across this podcast with Judith Orloff on the Jen Weigel Show, and immediately I'm like, okay, I absolutely need to get her new book. I need to talk about it. It's called The Genius of Empathy. And normally, when I hear about a book I need to read, I go right to my library, and I see like my library app, and I see if I can get the audiobook. Well, it's not there. So no, that's not even what I do this time because it's a new book, 2024. I'm like, there's no way it's going to be at the library. This is what happens. So I want to tell the story right because it's more magical that way. So I go to Audible right away and I go to order it and it says like pre-order now with 1 credit. And I'm like, what? Pre-order now? I want it now. If I'm learning about a book, I need to read it immediately. Don't make me wait. But I was like, why is it pre-order? This is super weird. And it didn't give me a date. So I was like, this is some sort of glitch. And I know it. I worked in publishing. It's very easy to make a glitch on a publishing, like your metadata site or whatever. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just see what else she has at the library. I'm like, I know I read one of her books before. So I go on and I'm looking and there's actually a course, like a seminar that she put on. And it's called How to Become an Intuitive Healer, I believe. Anyways, it was at my library. It was free. It was a few hours long. But what you get in a seminar, and I highly recommend if you're, looking at the library for audiobooks, to get a seminar whenever you can or like a course, because that's all the stuff you don't get in the book. That's the stuff that you have to pay extra for after you've read the book to take the course, So those courses have like juicy stuff in there. So this whole course was really, really great. But what I realized while I was listening to it was that so much of the way she does intuitive heart healing and intuitive like health scans and all that stuff is how I do Reiki. I've had to adjust my Reiki with the symbols and stuff because of my aphantasia. And for me, it's like an energetic heart thing. And I'm wondering if like Judith Orloff and all these Reiki masters are literally doing the same thing, just calling it different things. The difference is, and this is a whole thing, I would love to do an experiment and figure this out, but I have no idea. This is the idea I had in the shower, okay? I get shower thoughts. So I was thinking Reiki. For Reiki, you go through 3 levels to get to your Reiki master, like to become a Reiki master. So you do your level 1, you can do Reiki healing on people when they're with you. Reiki 2, you learn how to do distance Reiki on people. So I can tap into people's energy from a distance. And for me, very shockingly, I like this more. I feel like I get way more. Maybe it's because, so also I don't know if I said this, but for the Reiki 1, you get attuned by a master. So they do like an energy thing where they attune you. And after that is when like my dreams were opening up more. I was getting more downloads. I was like I experienced a couple visuals here and there. Like there was a lot of stuff that was happening after my first Reiki and then amplified after my second one. And then I'm going to get my Reiki master, to become a Reiki master. I keep saying Reiki masters, like it's like a master's program, but yeah, I don't know. I should word it differently. I'm doing that at the end of May. Here's what I'm like. Okay, there's a lot of toxic spirituality out there, and I'm not at all saying that Reiki is toxic spirituality, but you have to like pay for Reiki 1, Reiki 2, Reiki 3, and then when you're a Reiki master, you can teach other people, right? So I'm like, is that a pyramid scheme? And then you're getting people like, but it's not. I think of it like if you were to take an intuitive heart healing course, you're probably going to do it in stages too. And one of the things with Reiki and with anything in life is you teach someone something, you get something in return. Like it's a service for service, like an energy exchange, right? And so, what I don't think it's a pyramid scheme, but what I do wonder, and I don't have any way of knowing if this is true or not, is Reiki and intuitive heart healing, what Judith Orloff talks about, is it the same? Do you need to be attuned to do the intuitive heart healing? Like, would you have the same result? So, and could I, like, if I didn't have If some random person said, I have this like beautiful energy inside of me and I'm going to tune you, and they didn't have their Reiki masters and they just did it, would that intention, because I think that energy healing is a lot about intention for Reiki, for intuitive heart healing, it's a lot about intention. If someone were to do that to, this is what I want, a scientific experiment where you take twins, okay, who have similar personalities, not like mirror twins, they're like the same. You get one attuned by a Reiki master, and you do the Reiki 1, 2, 3 with them. And then you have the other twin learn all about intuitive heart healing or energy healing of any form, and their teacher is not attuned to the Reiki masters or anything like that, but they offer their own energy healing on this individual. And then I want them to come back and see who has the more healing hands, who ends up being more intuitive. You know, is it the same? Would it be the same? Would it be different? This is what I'm curious about, and I don't think there's really a way of knowing. And I don't think bottom line, I don't think it really matters. But I do like worry about people coming after like Reiki practitioners or energy healers or anything, because I feel like people are always like thinking that everything's just a money grab and not important. When I feel like if we were to understand energy healing more, it would be more like widely used, in medical facilities and hospice. And actually hospice is pretty up on the Reiki and stuff. I was surprised at that, and I'm pleasantly surprised about that. So yeah, I was wondering what other people think about that. And I wanted to throw out there again that, so I am doing my Reiki, and now I hope it doesn't sound like I'm against Reiki. I think what I cannot deny is the experience I had after and during being attuned. But the problem there, like if you're looking at it through a scientific lens or whatever, is I don't know what it would have been like if my Reiki master was just a Joe Blow saying, hey, I'm giving you this powerful energy, because the intention of that can be really powerful. And the intention of receiving that can be super powerful too. Do you see what I mean? Like there's no way of scientifically really knowing unless I have, twins and I was able to do this kind of like study. So, hey, if you're a twin living in and around the Ontario region and have a sister or brother, I guess, who is just like you, and you're both interested in energy healing and want to learn 2 different ways, maybe I can actually make this experiment happen. Email me at rofocreative@gmail.com. But I am going for my Reiki master. I'm super respectful of Reiki. I believe in it so much. I feel the power in my hands. I just understand the power of the placebo effect too. But I think the power of the placebo, it just shows that we are so powerful. Like our minds are so powerful. We are so powerful. It's the intention. Like if you think that this is going to work, it's going to work. That is huge. So if you believe and you have the intention of healing with your hands, I think your hands are going to be pretty powerful. But I think, I don't know, whatever road you feel like going, I think that the world can use more energy healers however you want to go about doing it. So come summertime, because I'm going to do my Reiki Masters and I want to do it for a bit before being I'm running a course, but I plan on doing this because since my last episode where I talked a bit about Reiki, I've had several people reach out and be like, you're the only person with aphantasia who's done Reiki, that talks about it or whatever. So I would love to be able to teach people who have aphantasia and share the more, go more in depth with how I've changed and adapted Reiki to suit me, and how I've kind of almost combined Judith Orloff's stuff and other people. I've read a lot of other energy healing books. I think that it's kind of coming together in this. It's a little bit different than a regular Reiki, I think, the way I'm going to teach it. More, I mean, not more intuitive. I've only been taught by one person, right? So I feel like everybody could do it differently. My one friend did a Reiki thing, and it was like so intense, so strict, and so just like rigid. And she was telling me about it, and she was going to teach me. And I was like, I love my friend, and I would love to do that with her. She also lives too far away for it to be easy. But the rigidity of it, it won't work for me because of my aphantasia and my inability to do certain things. But I also have the extra ability to do more things, like I feel like I'm more intuitive than most people. I mean, again, that would have to be tested, but I feel like I have a higher emotional IQ. I feel like I have ADHD in the most super powerful-ish way. I have ideas like every 3 seconds. It's almost too much. But yeah, I plan on teaching this stuff. And if you're interested at all, if you have like any inkling about learning about energy healing in a different type of way, it's like intuitive, it's like opening up to your mediumistic capabilities. It's all kind of combined together. Stick with me. Email me interested in Reiki, and I'll just put you aside and let you know when it's available. I have a mailing list. I haven't mailed anyone yet because I just haven't had the need. But when I'm going to launch this, I will email people because I've had a lot of people say like, this is not out there, and I know that I'm meant to heal, and I just don't know how to do that. So I feel I'm here to teach. I feel like that's part of the reason that I've like flooded my brain with so many books. I read so much, and it's all just there, and I feel like I need to like release it somehow and share it. That's why I started the podcast. One of a few reasons. That's why I continue the podcast, because it helps me digest and express myself freely and reflect on life in a completely different way. So this is another way of saying, if you've thought about starting a podcast, I highly recommend you do so. It is wonderfully therapeutic, and especially if you get downloads constantly like me. I actually would love to know if people with aphantasia get more downloads than other people. And if you're listening to this and you're like, what the fuck is a download? You probably don't get downloads, and that is totally okay. Not everyone gets that. Not everyone gets downloads. Did you know this? And if you're like, what the fuck is a download? Again, probably don't get them. It's like when an entire book series plops into your brain and you're like, okay, what do I do with this? Do I write this book right now, or do I move on to the next random download? I think I've talked about this. I think I talked about it on my last podcast, where Elizabeth Gilbert, she's the author of Eat, Pray, Love. She wrote a book. Sorry, I'm just filling my dog's dish. If you hear water, I'm not in the bathroom. She wrote a book called Big Magic. It's like a few years old. But she talks about this, about how like ideas can go to one person, and then if you don't act on that idea, which you don't have to act on every idea. If I acted on every one of my ideas, I would be so burnt out, and I am. Because I try to act on so many ideas, and it's impossible. But where the hell was I going with this? You can't act on every one of your ideas. And when you don't act on an idea, like say it's a really good idea for a book or a movie or whatever, that idea can implant into someone else's brain. So it's like a real thing. It's like legit happens. Pretty cool, right? What else did I have to say? Oh, did I talk about the afterlife frequency? So this morning I did a meditation. And by meditation, I mean I go into my basement where it's super duper dark. It's like my sacred space at like 3 o'clock in the morning, because that's when I get woken up by spirit. I'm telling you that's what's happening. I don't even I get woken up and I'm like, I'm not even going to try. let's go. So I go downstairs and I just sit with it, and I have so much information come in. It's very intense sometimes. So not yesterday, the day before yesterday, my friend was like, oh, my energy feels like bananas. Can you like tap in and see what you see? So I did a whole reading on her, and it was very intense. But then this morning, I was like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to read anything. I'm just going to put my hand on my heart, and I'm going to listen and just like hear what might come, kind of thing. So I had my hand on my heart, and I kept getting afterlife frequency, afterlife frequency, afterlife frequency. And I was like, okay, afterlife frequency. And I was like, so then this is what happens. I'll get like a thing in my head, and if I don't like engage with it, it'll just like keep going. And then throughout my day, like the words, synchronistic behavior has been looping in my head for like the last 3 years. And so it's made me really pay attention to synchronistic behavior, like things that happen, but it's like, it happens all the time. And whenever I hear it, I'm like, oh, something synchronistic is going to happen soon. And it does. It always does. But so what was I hearing in my head? Holy crap. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah. Afterlife frequency. So I'm hearing afterlife frequency, and then I have my hand on my heart, and I go back to my Reiki treatment on my friend a couple days before when I went into her energy, and I was like, learning things and like readjusting things and whatever. And the thing that I got for her was that her heart is a filtration system, and that like a lot of ideas come into like all of our chakras, or like we get an idea that beams into our head like a download, but then it can go from the downloaded state to all of our chakras really quick, and then it kind of like, it's like a geyser almost. It shoots out of you really quickly, and it's like that energy, that idea doesn't go anywhere because it like leaks out of all these holes really fast. And the way that you handle this is if like you get all these massive downloads, and that was a monarch butterfly was literally just like floating in my windowsill there. That was magical. Sorry. The way that you handle this, and I want to share this with other people because I felt like it's probably good advice for everyone, was you get like a massive idea or download, whatever. You sit with it, and you put your hand on your heart, and you feel the energy of your heart, and you think, is this a good idea? Like, how does my heart feel about this? Okay. And then once you're really sitting with it in your heart, and how it would feel from a heart's perspective to like follow through on this, whatever, then you like let it filter through to your other chakras. So your like root chakra, which is this going to provide security? Is this going to like feed my passion? You're going up your chakras, your sacral chakra, your throat chakra. You're going to go through all of those chakras, but it's filtered through your heart first. And by doing that, it's like you're adding energy into your energy body, and also like you're also using that creative energy, but filling up your cup at the same time. Whereas if you were to just go straight for all the chakras, it like just drains your cup and your capacity to do things. So as I keep getting this afterlife frequency thing in my head, this like scene, again, it's like a download. It's like something that's happened previously, but that whole event goes into my head. I don't see anything. It's just like the knowingness of that thing. It goes into my head, and I'm like, it's explaining to me that if we want to communicate with loved ones who are no longer with us, if we want to communicate with people who are in the afterlife frequency, because it's a frequency, okay, it's like a radio dial, okay? You can tune into it more during certain times of the day, I'm telling you. I haven't figured it out yet, but it is absolutely a frequency. So I'm in this like, and it's talking to me and saying it's a frequency, and it was telling me like the heart is the key thing. It's like, if you can get into the heart frequency, the answers come quickly and easily, and it's like, you just have to know what to ask. Like, you have to ask questions. You can be like, oh, I wish I could talk to my dead brother. Well, what are you going to say to him? Sit with it, put your heart on your chest, sit in the dark at 3:00 in the morning, breathe into your heart energy, and then start asking some questions. say what you want to say and just sit with it and see how you feel, see how your body feels. Do you feel any sensations? Do you feel like a push on your back, like a light feather on your back, or like wings on your back? I get a wing feeling often. Like what other sensations do you feel? Is anything in your house making weird noises in that moment? Is there anything at all? And hey, sometimes it comes in right away, like a voice. Sometimes it's your own voice talking back to you. It comes in different ways, but you have to tune in to the heart frequency. And there's like music you can listen to do this too. What I find the best, and this is after like, I try different things all the time. I love binaural beats, like I love frequency music and all that stuff. I absolutely do. I also love just like putting my headphones in and being able to hear my own inner, like plugging my ears basically. So I can't hear anything from the outside. It's just like if you put a conch shell to your ear, it's like that echoey inner head space. I like that for meditation because I feel like that, I don't know, it just gets me in the zone really quickly, but it took me a while to get there and I don't even do it all the time. I also like just using my tuning forks and hitting them and like putting it, one of the best feelings in the world. And I need so badly to get more frequency tuning forks. There's like a specific one just for heart and I want that so bad. Do I know what it is off the top of my head? Absolutely not. I do not. So don't ask, but I could Google it. But with my forks right now, I just have a set of 3 and one of them is like a lower frequency and I will put it, especially if I'm feeling anxious, I will bang it and put it on my chest. I usually put a rose quartz crystal in between. I feel like it amplifies it a bit more. And I'll just put it on my chest and wait. So you hear the sound of the tuning fork, but you also feel the vibration. And I wait till the vibration is completely gone, but then I wait longer than that. So like it's gone, and then I still wait a good like 5-10 seconds because something happens in that period. Like it's like right after the like the vibration is gone, it's like that is when your body settles into the frequency. It like settles in. It's like you feel the vibration and it's really intense and then it slowly fades, and then it's gone. And then you're like, and then you can like let out a breath almost. It's like your body relaxes into like a gentler state of being. Oh, there we go again. There's my butterfly back. Wow, that's pretty magical. Just walking around in a circle and every once in a while I look up at the window. And there's the butterfly just saying hello. Pretty wild. Okay, I think, the last random thing I'm going to talk about is a book I just started reading, so I'm not very far, and I'm sure I'm going to have so many other cool tidbits of information from this book. But it's another book I got from the library on CD, which is like so fun, except when the CD skips, because that's still like a real life problem. Like these books are probably from the 90s. Some of them have scratches on them. So there's been a couple books I haven't been able to finish, so that was upsetting. I'm so sorry, I was just so thirsty there. Okay, so this book that I got that just jumped out of me at the library is called The Soul of an Octopus. I forget what the subtitle is, and I don't have it in front of me, but it's like a cutesy picture of an octopus, like a drawn picture of an octopus. And oh my gosh, I don't even have the author's name. I feel terrible because I hate like promoting a book without actually promoting it properly. But this book is interesting. It's talking about, well, first of all, octopuses are octopuses. It is octopuses. Don't be like, hey, it's octopi. I learned that in the first chapter. There's no plural for, you can't say octopi because that's a Latin plural on a Greek word, something like that. Or opposite of that. Like it's a Greek word. It's a Greek plural. No, I think doesn't matter. It's octopuses. So they're talking about how intelligent octopus are and well, it was talking about like animals in general and consciousness, and how mankind, like the humanistic point of view is that like we have consciousness but animals don't. I don't think that's true. I think that like all animals have consciousness, and I think that we're all like kind of on different frequencies. Like I was thinking about this the other day about a group of swallows. I've talked about swallows before, like birds that kind of flow together like a school of fish. I don't know if to them they're going that fast or if they're at a different frequency, so it's like normal movement for them. And same with trees. I think that like trees have conversations, but they're at a different pace than we are. They're like sped super slow down. And yeah, I don't know. I had this whole thing about time, like what frequency we're at and how we perceive the world around us. Octopus. Go back to octopus. This was like a small story I wanted to say. So octopus are so smart, like so beyond smart, way smarter than humans. They can like change their whole, they can get out of, they get out of like all sorts of captivity places. They're like, that the scene from Finding Dory where the octopus is like going everywhere. They legit do that. So in this book, it's talking about all these like escaped octopuses, and the things that they had to do to escape are just like bananas. They like unscrew stuff. They're crazy smart. So one of the things they discovered from like studying them is that they need to keep them learning. Like they need to keep their brains occupied. Just like a dog, if you leave it home all day and they have no sort of like intellectual stimulation, like if they don't do anything to help their brain, they'll get bored and they'll chew on your sneakers, right? Or my dog, she immediately like takes the bread down and goes and snuggles bagels for a while. That's what she does if she's, not stimulated enough. So these octopus do like really shitty stuff when they're not stimulated. So they've come up with all these different types of games and tools and like toys for these octopus to play to help with their, a high brain function and the need to be stimulated. So they had this like box where they put a crab in it and then they put a lock on it, and there's another box with a lock on it and another box, and the octopus was able to go through 3 boxes, all with different types of locks on it, and able to get into it. And then a different octopus did it in a totally different type of way. Like they were problem solving different ways of doing stuff, and it's really cool. But the interesting part of the toy story was there was a yellow starfish, some sort of animal, fish, like star animal. I might be getting the name of it wrong, but it was a starfish of some sort. They specifically said this fish had no brain activity, absolutely no brain. But every time the octopus would get a new toy, the starfish would go to the toy and try to get the toy. And so they're thinking, well, okay, if the starfish has the desire to play with this toy, doesn't that mean that the starfish has some sort of consciousness? Anyways, they argued a couple different sides of it, but I thought that was interesting. And I think of like jellyfish too, and I don't know, other animals without brains that, and like why would anyone think, and I'm sorry if you think this, because this is like a blanket statement of like, I don't understand how you could possibly think that animals don't have consciousness. Why are human beings the only privileged people to have this? Everyone else is just like a video game character without like a controller. That's what it feels like. That's what they're saying, is that animals are just like background noise for us to like go through life with internal experience. And I think that animals have an internal experience. Oh man, I find it's super interesting learning about elephants and their memory, and octopus and penguins, and it's just learning about our ecosystem and our animals and stuff can just teach us a lot about ourselves. So if you're at the library and you're like, what should I read next? Hey, pick up a book about penguins or octopus, because it is fascinating. Anyways, I'm going to end that here. This is like an hour-long episode. I feel a lot better. I feel like you probably don't want to listen to that episode sped up because I talked really fast. But I feel like I got a lot out there. If you're interested at all about learning about Reiki or if you just want to like share with me something that, you know, resonated with you. I love hearing from people. I like, there's nothing more I love when someone emails me and they're like, oh, I had a synchronicity with your episode, or like, oh my gosh, you said this, and it really stuck with me or whatever. So I love hearing from people. Don't be shy. My email is rofocreative@gmail.com. That's ROFO creative@gmail.com. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and stick with me if you want to learn Reiki or energy healing in the near future.